Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales and boundless imagination come to life. Enjoy the story and don't forget to subscribe.
Ethan Voss stepped off his sleek personal shuttle onto the landing pad of his remote estate. The air was crisp with the scent of pine trees that surrounded his retreat. After years spent navigating uncharted star systems, he had expected this homecoming to feel like a sanctuary. Instead, it felt hollow. "Welcome back, Mr. Voss," chimed the smooth voice of the house AI through hidden speakers. "Current time is 1843. Temperature is 15 degrees Celsius. All systems are operational." Ethan grunted in acknowledgement as he slung his duffel bag over one shoulder. The massive steel doors of his ultra-modern home slid open with a soft hiss. The interior was just as he'd left it, minimalist furniture, walls lined with digital art displays, and floors so clean they reflected light like mirrors. "Your regular staff has been maintained during your absence," continued the AI. "Additionally, one new member has been added. Would you like an introduction?" Ethan frowned. "New member? I didn't approve any new hires. The agency sent her 3 months ago after your previous caretaker resigned," replied the AI smoothly. Before he could respond further, a figure appeared at the edge of his vision. She moved silently across the polished floor like a shadow given form. Her skin shimmered faintly under the ambient lighting, a deep emerald hue that seemed almost alive. Her golden eyes glowed softly as they met his gaze. "I'm Lyra," she said, her voice melodic yet measured. "Your new housekeeper." Ethan blinked. He had encountered countless alien species during his career, but none quite like her. She was humanoid in shape but undeniably otherworldly in presence. Her uniform, a simple black jumpsuit, did little to conceal her lithe frame or the strange energy that seemed to radiate from her. "Strange timing," he muttered, setting down his bag. "I've been gone for years, and suddenly I need a new housekeeper." Lyra tilted her head slightly, studying him with an intensity that made him uneasy. "The agency believed you would require assistance upon your return." "Right," Ethan said skeptically. He turned toward the bar in the corner of the room and poured himself a drink, a generous splash of aged whiskey from Earth. He took a long sip before glancing back at her. "Do you always stand there like a statue?" he asked. Lyra blinked once before stepping forward with deliberate grace. "I apologize if my presence makes you uncomfortable." "It's not discomfort," he said slowly. "It's curiosity." Before she could respond, the lights flickered overhead. A low hum reverberated through the walls as if something deep within the house had stirred awake. "What now?" Ethan muttered. "Main power will restore in 30 seconds, said Lyra calmly. "There have been occasional surges recently." Ethan narrowed his eyes at her. "Occasional surges? This place is supposed to be state-of-the-art." Lyra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she clasped her hands behind her back. A gesture that seemed too calculated for someone claiming to be just a housekeeper. "I'll check the systems," she said finally and turned to leave. "Hold on," Ethan called after her. "How long have these occasional surges been happening?" "Only recently," she replied without looking back. "Nothing to concern yourself with." Her words did little to reassure him. Years spent surviving hostile environments had honed his instincts, and right now they were screaming that something wasn't right. He downed the rest of his whiskey in one gulp before heading upstairs for a shower. Maybe some hot water would clear his head. The bathroom was a sanctuary of modern luxury, floor-to-ceiling smart glass walls that adjusted opacity at will, rainfall showerheads that mimicked natural springs, and heated tiles underfoot. As steam filled the room, Ethan let out a sigh of relief. He closed his eyes under the cascade of water, allowing himself to relax for the first time since landing on Earth. But just as tension began to melt away from his muscles, he heard it, the faint hiss of the door sliding open. His eyes snapped open as adrenaline surged through him. Standing in the doorway was Lyra. She wasn't wearing her uniform anymore. Instead, she donned a simple white bodysuit that clung to her form like a second skin. Her golden eyes glowed brighter than before as they locked onto him. "I needed to check," she began but stopped abruptly when she saw him staring at her. "What are you doing here?" he demanded sharply. Her expression flickered between hesitation and resolve before she stepped further into the room. "There's something wrong with..." Before she could finish her sentence, another power surge plunged them into darkness. For one brief moment, illuminated only by emergency lights along the floor panels, Ethan saw something flicker across Lyra's face, a metallic sheen beneath her emerald skin that vanished just as quickly as it appeared. "What are you?" he whispered, more to himself than to her. Lyra didn't answer immediately but took another step closer until they were standing mere inches apart in the dim light. "Not what you think," she said softly. And then everything went dark again, this time accompanied by an ominous hum that made every hair on Ethan's body stand on end. The room was still dark, save for the faint emergency lights casting an eerie glow across the walls. Ethan Voss and Lyra stood frozen in the silence that followed the power surge. The oppressive hum of the house's compromised systems seemed to press against their ears, but it was nothing compared to the tension between them. Ethan's mind raced as he replayed the moment he'd seen it, the metallic sheen beneath Lyra's emerald skin. It wasn't a trick of the light. It wasn't his imagination. Something about her wasn't human, and she had just confirmed it with her cryptic words, "Not what you think." "Care to explain that?" Ethan asked, his voice low but steady. Lyra hesitated, her golden eyes flickering with something akin to regret. For a moment, she looked almost vulnerable, a stark contrast to the composed and enigmatic figure she had been moments ago. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she said finally, her melodic voice tinged with sadness. "But I suppose there's no point in hiding anymore." Ethan crossed his arms, leaning against the cracked tile wall. "You've got my attention." Lyra took a deep breath, her glowing eyes dimming slightly as if she were gathering her thoughts. "I'm not from here," she began. "Not from Earth, not even from this star system." "That much I figured," Ethan said dryly. "I'm one of the Solarii," she continued, ignoring his sarcasm. "A race that once thrived in a star system far from here. We were beings of light and energy, capable of harnessing the power of our sun to sustain ourselves and our civilization." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like you had it all figured out." "We did," Lyra admitted, her gaze distant as if she were looking back across the vast expanse of time and space. "But we grew too ambitious. We pushed our technology too far, tried to control forces we didn't fully understand. In the end, we destroyed ourselves." Her voice faltered, and for a moment, Ethan thought he saw tears glistening in her golden eyes. "The collapse of our star system wiped out most of my kind," she said softly. "Those who survived scattered across the galaxy, hiding in plain sight or retreating to isolated worlds where we could live unnoticed. And you ended up here," Ethan said, his tone neutral but his mind racing with questions. Lyra nodded. "Earth is unique. Its magnetic fields and atmospheric conditions make it one of the few places where my energy signature can be masked from those who might hunt me." "Hunt you?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Who's hunting you?" Lyra hesitated again, her hands clenching at her sides. "There are those who see my kind as a resource, a source of limitless energy to be harvested and exploited. Others see us as threats that need to be eliminated." Ethan's stomach twisted uncomfortably. He had spent years in deep space encountering countless alien species and their struggles for survival. But hearing Lyra's story struck a chord he hadn't expected. "And what about me?" he asked after a moment. "Did you think I'd be one of those hunters?" Her gaze snapped back to him, wide with alarm. "No. I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I came here. I only knew that this house was isolated enough for me to stay hidden." Ethan studied her carefully, searching for any sign of deceit in her expression. But all he saw was exhaustion and fear, emotions that felt all too familiar. "Why tell me this now?" he asked finally. Lyra looked away, her jaw tightening. "Because I don't think I have a choice anymore." She gestured toward the flickering lights and humming walls around them. "Something is wrong with your house's AI system. Something that shouldn't be possible unless someone tampered with it." Ethan frowned. He had designed this house to be impenetrable, a fortress of technology meant to keep him safe from anyone who might come looking for him after his retirement from bounty hunting. "You're saying someone hacked into my systems?" he asked. Lyra nodded grimly. "And if they did, it means they know I'm here." The conversation was interrupted by another surge of energy that made the walls tremble slightly. The emergency lights flickered again before stabilizing. "We need to figure out what's going on," Ethan said, pushing himself off the wall and heading toward the door. Lyra followed closely behind him as they made their way through the darkened corridors of the house. The once sleek and modern interior now felt oppressive under the dim emergency lighting. As they reached the control room, a small chamber filled with monitors and holographic displays, Ethan immediately began accessing the AI's diagnostic logs. "What are you looking for?" Lyra asked, standing behind him with her arms crossed protectively over her chest. "Any sign of external interference," Ethan replied without looking up from the screen. The logs revealed a series of anomalies dating back several weeks, anomalies that had gone unnoticed while Ethan was still in deep space. "Here," he said, pointing at one particular entry. "Someone accessed my systems remotely 3 months ago, the same time you arrived." Lyra stiffened visibly at his words but said nothing. Ethan turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "You sure no one followed you here?" "I'm sure," she said firmly. But there was a flicker of doubt in her eyes that didn't escape his notice. Before either of them could say anything further, an alert flashed across one of the monitors: "Unauthorized energy signature detected." "What does that mean?" Lyra asked urgently. "It means whoever hacked into my system just found us," Ethan said grimly. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the hallway outside, a sound that shouldn't have been possible in a house designed for complete automation. Ethan grabbed a plasma pistol from a hidden compartment beneath one of the consoles and motioned for Lyra to stay behind him as they moved cautiously toward the source of the noise. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a humanoid figure clad in sleek black armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The figure raised its weapon, a high-tech energy rifle, and aimed directly at them. "Get down!" Ethan shouted as he fired his pistol at their attacker. The plasma bolt struck the armored figure squarely in its chest but seemed to do little more than stagger it momentarily before it retaliated with a burst of energy fire that narrowly missed Ethan's head. Lyra reacted instinctively, stepping forward and raising one hand toward their attacker. A beam of golden light shot from her palm, striking the armored figure and sending it crashing into a nearby wall with enough force to leave an impression in the metal surface. Ethan stared at her in shock as she lowered her hands slowly, breathing heavily from exertion. "Remind me not to get on your bad side," he muttered under his breath before turning back toward their fallen assailant. As they approached cautiously, Ethan noticed something strange about the armored figure. It wasn't human or even organic at all but rather some kind of advanced combat droid designed for infiltration and assassination. "It's not over yet," Lyra said quietly as another alert flashed across one of Ethan's wrist-mounted devices: "Multiple hostiles incoming." Ethan clenched his jaw tightly before glancing at Lyra once more. "Looks like we're going to have company." The bathroom door, now sealed shut, was rapidly becoming a prison. The house's automated systems, once symbols of comfort and security, were turning against them, a chilling testament to the compromised AI. Ethan, still partially dressed and adrenaline pumping, examined the door's locking mechanism. "Can you override the door?" he asked, turning to Lyra. The emergency lights reflected off her emerald skin, which now pulsed with a faint inner light. "I can try," she replied, her voice tight with concentration. "But the system is heavily encrypted." Whoever did this knew what they were doing. Lyra extended her hand towards the door panel, her fingers glowing with a soft, golden light. She began to manipulate the energy, trying to disrupt the electronic lock. Sparks flew as she worked, but the door remained firmly sealed. "It's no use," she said finally, withdrawing her hand. "The lock is shielded. I can't bypass it from here." Ethan cursed under his breath. They were trapped, and the house was turning against them. He grabbed a towel and began drying himself, his mind racing. He needed a plan, and fast. "Okay," he said, thinking aloud. "The AI is compromised. It's targeting you. That means whoever is behind this knows you're here and wants you gone. Or captured," Lyra added grimly. Ethan nodded. "Either way, we need to figure out who's pulling the strings and why." He thought back to his years as a bounty hunter, the countless enemies he had made. But none of them had the resources or the technical expertise to hack into his house's AI. This was something different, something more personal. "Did you bring any enemies with you, Lyra?" he asked, turning to face her. She hesitated for a moment, her golden eyes clouding with doubt. "There are individuals who would benefit from my capture," she admitted. "But I don't know how they could have found me here." "Someone is helping them," Ethan said, his voice hardening. "Someone who knows this house, knows me." Suddenly, a holographic display flickered to life on the bathroom wall. A face appeared. A face Ethan hadn't seen in years, but one he recognized instantly, Kieran Stroud. "Hello, Ethan," Kieran said, his voice smooth and mocking. "Long time no see." Ethan's jaw tightened. Kieran Stroud was a former rival of his, a fellow bounty hunter who had always been one step behind him. They had clashed numerous times over the years, both professionally and personally. "Kieran," Ethan said, his voice laced with venom. "What is this?" Kieran chuckled. "Just a little welcome home present, old friend. I knew you couldn't stay away from the action for long. What do you want?" Ethan demanded. "Oh, it's not about you, Ethan," Kieran said, his eyes flicking towards Lyra. "It's about your new companion." Lyra stiffened, her eyes narrowing at Kieran. "I know what she is, Ethan," Kieran continued. "One of the last Solarii. A valuable asset, wouldn't you say?" Ethan felt a surge of anger. Kieran was after Lyra, and he was using Ethan's house to get to her. "You won't get away with this, Kieran," Ethan said, his hand instinctively reaching for the plasma pistol he had stashed in a hidden compartment. "Oh, I already have," Kieran said with a smirk. "The house is under my control. The AI is following my orders. And you, my friend, are trapped." Kieran gestured towards the temperature gauge on the wall. "Enjoy the cold, Ethan. The house is slowly freezing you both to death. It's a fitting end for a washed-up bounty hunter and his alien pet." The holographic display flickered and died, leaving Ethan and Lyra alone in the rapidly cooling bathroom. "That son of a bitch," Ethan growled. He slammed his fist against the wall in frustration. "What are we going to do?" Lyra asked, her voice filled with concern. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. He couldn't afford to panic. He had to think. "We need to find a way out of here," he said. "And we need to stop Kieran before he gets his hands on you." He surveyed the bathroom, searching for anything that could help them. His gaze landed on the smart glass windows. "The windows," he said. "They're reinforced, but they're not indestructible. If we can shatter them, we might be able to escape." Lyra nodded. "I can try to use my energy to weaken the glass," she said. "But it will take time." "We don't have time," Ethan said. "We need to find another way." Suddenly, he remembered something, a hidden maintenance panel behind the shower. He had installed it himself, years ago, as a secret escape route. "There's a panel behind the shower," he said. It leads to a maintenance tunnel. It's not much, but it's better than nothing. He rushed towards the shower, ignoring the freezing water that still dripped from the shower head. He found the panel, hidden beneath a layer of false tiles. He pried it open, revealing a narrow, dark tunnel. "This is it," he said. "Let's go." He squeezed into the tunnel, followed closely by Lyra. The tunnel was cramped and claustrophobic, but it was their only hope. As they crawled through the darkness, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. Kieran Stroud was a cunning and ruthless enemy. He wouldn't make it this easy for them. But they had no choice. They had to keep moving, keep fighting, until they found a way to turn the tables on Kieran and escape his deadly game. Their survival depended on it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for second part.